Today we're going to look at the 3 shapes that are the secret behind the artwork for Marvel Comics. Now I should point out straight away, there's no sponsorship here. I'm not sponsored by Marvel Comics, but Marvel, if you're watching, you're welcome. But leaving that aside, this is a system of drawing that was championed by the fantastic original art director of Marvel Comics, Stan Lee. And he was quite a strong advocate of this particular style of drawing, where 3 particular shapes are held to be the secret to all anatomical features. And actually, I think he's right. It's a fantastic system. Watch it through. There are 3 types to look for. Watch all 3. When you've finished watching this, you'll be able to start creating images in the same way that the fantastic artists at Marvel have done all the way through the existence of those fabulous comics. So let's get stuck in, see how we go. The 3 shapes that Marvel style was built on. It's a real classic style. You can see my rendition of it here, where this would be the sort of pencil efforts that were done before the Incas got involved in it. Sounds like South American ancient civilization, but those who ink, as opposed to a strange civilization from South America. So the pencil worker would be the one, in effect, who defines everything, and the inker would be the one who just finishes it off and adds his own bit of style. So 3 shapes. One of them's very visible in this picture that I've done, but let's just move forward to the next representation. The 3 shapes that Marvel artists won't work without, and the first one is a sphere. I've got myself here helpfully pointing towards the sphere so that you can't be in any way confused. I'm also helpfully thinking of a sphere in the way that when I was 11 I wanted to be a professional football player, but that didn't come to pass. I won't be the only one who can say that. So the sphere, it's simply a circle that you draw and you put some shade on it. A sphere is different from a circle in as much as it has an equator, which if you went right through would go like this, just like on our home planet. It would look like this. And it has a meridian. On our planet, the meridian goes through Greenwich in London, where I'm from, and that would of course go round the back like this as well. So the sphere is the secret to, for instance, to all heads. You can't, with most types of cartoon drawing, certainly in the Marvel style of cartoon drawing, you couldn't do it without the underdrawing being a sphere for the head. The next one is a cube. And a cube is an interesting thing because what it's made up of, as I've tried to show here in this demonstration, is 2 squares, one here and another one just here. Now, getting the dimension, not so much the dimension but the angle right, is a key thing here, because you can't tell when you look at that for the first time. Let's just complete the effect. If we put all the lines in, which is the front? Which is the front face of that? Is it this one? Do you think? Or would it be this one? Now you can get round that quite simply in the world of squares by making the furthest one noticeably smaller than the nearest one. Oops, sorry, I'm getting that wrong already. So you can have your square. You decide that this is the face that's nearest. The one that's furthest away is therefore smaller. And now there's really no argument over which is the front face. That's just one of the odd things about it. And it's why you tend to put shade on cubes. That's my cube there. I've actually shown it more like a box And that's again one of the little enigmatic things that you can do with the cube. We'll move on to the cube shortly, because it doesn't have to be made of squares. It can be squashed and squidged around, and that's actually a very good idea to get your pictures done and get the effect that you want. Now the third is a tube. Here I am leaning on it, and the tube is what it says it is, but from the purposes of drawing it, it's two ellipses, one at the top like this and one down below to represent the bottom of it, joined by two lines down the sides. Now these ellipses are slightly different, and that's because of perspective. I will do an entire piece on the subject of perspective eventually. You can probably just hear some traffic going past my front door at the moment. It's the farmers moving things on their tractors and so forth here in my little French town. And we may hear some more at the moment, because we're around about the time when people go driving around. So to make this tube, what I've done is I've shown the two ellipses, the two lines down the side, and to give it some substance, it has its shading just here, with lines that pretty much coordinate with the surface of the tube. I mean, if we look at that, these lines here are not straight at all, and the further down they go, the less straight they become. And again, that's a feature of perspective. You'll notice that each time on these pictures I've sort of playfully done a picture of myself. I'm so used to drawing pictures of myself these days that I almost don't need to do any underdrawing, but the underdrawing is necessary on almost everything when you want to try and get action into your cartoon. If you want action, you must plan it and underdraw. So okay, we've got let's look more carefully at the sphere. The basis for all heads, as I've already said. And if you look, I'll move this now and you can see why that is. The human cranium is an almost perfect sphere. It isn't perfect, but for the purpose of drawing Marvel comic style, this is a circle, an absolutely perfect circle. And as you see here, the features are all symmetrical. We're most of us born that way, but oddly enough though, again when you're doing your drawings, the expressions on the face, the underlying skeleton is symmetrical, but the actions of the muscles on the face render our faces asymmetrical. When we smile, sometimes one side of the mouth is higher up than the other side, almost always actually. And as you can see, the sphere serves other purposes too. Again, picture of myself here. You can see the spheres in here, and also a picture of a cat. Spheres here. Cats, I know, it's not very Marvel, is it? But it is fun, and everybody likes to be able to draw a cat. They're quite straightforward things to draw. To draw well, much more difficult, but just to be able to draw one it's fine. It's a couple of circles and a few bits hanging on. So that's the sphere as it's used in human animation. Planet, ball, yes, it's a ball, and you use it to create the shape of the underlying shape of the figure that you want. So that's the sphere. The second shape being the cube. We can look at it this way, as I've already shown, which surface is facing us. It's down to the artist to emphasize that and make sure that you can understand it. I'll just take a moment here and say that if you've got your computer, well, you've got a computer or phone open at the moment, just tap the like button if you're enjoying what this is all about and you think that it's got some value for you. I'll be very glad if you would hit the subscribe button as well, because that way you become part of the club, become part of the show. We can communicate with each other very easily. You can ask me questions and I can answer them. And you can offer suggestions as to what some of these films ought to be about. So a like, a subscribe and a share would all be very gratefully received. Thanks. So, the cube. Back to the cube. It does not have to be equilateral, and I don't want to get over scientific, but equilateral means that the sides are the same, such as in a square like this. As you can see here, this is not a square, but it's a cuboid shape. It's three-dimensional, and it tends to have straightish lines, but they get squidged around a bit like a sponge. So that helps to be able to create action in the figure. As you can see here, there's obvious action going on there. There's movement. The person could be, there could be an arm here, and another one here, and the leg could be coming up like this. Now if you plan those in properly, and you plan your figures, you get much more action into what you're doing. But just use these shapes as the scaffolding that you hang everything on. So this cube is also really good. Every story needs a setting. So if you're doing a cartoon strip and it involves action heroes and so on, buildings almost invariably come into it. And I've just shown you here the beginnings of the subject of perspective. That went a bit crooked. The beginnings of the subject of perspective. And with perspective, you create your cubes. It's far from perfect, this, but it's a sketch, and it shows you how it's done. So you've got this cube here, the nearest one, is you wouldn't leave it like this. This is just a construction. You would add in, like this, you would add in doors, windows, and eventually when it comes to being inked, all of these lines will just disappear and you'll be left with the finished ink. It's great for furniture too, as you can see. This chair, which I've invented all by myself, my own design, and you can see the spheres in there. One here, another one there. You can see the squarey things in here, which will take us on now to the third of the shapes. The third of the shapes is a tube. Tube is principally used for limbs. So here are the arms, and here are the legs. So arms here, legs here. There's little difference between arms and legs as far as cartoons go, as far as the construction of it goes. You just have to be mindful when you come to it, that when you're creating your layout and your action figure, that these are only construction elements, and you're going to have to put some muscles on and that kind of thing. And here's a hand. You can see that every segment is a kind of a tube like this, and it's all stuck onto a squashed cube. I hope this is coming across as simple as it's intended. And it's promoted originally by the great Stan Lee. He was the art director for Marvel Comics for a long time. He was a huge influence in the world of comics, and without him you'd be unlikely to have the fantastic Marvel franchise that there is today. What I've done here is my own little rendition of how you might start creating your character. And even here we have our tubes here, and we have a sphere here for the head, and we have our cube shapes here. But even here, when we're doing our construction drawing, we can start to add some spheres, because these characters always have big muscles, don't they? Like this. And I'm just going to show you this very briefly to show what it means to do your underdrawing properly. If we just create that in red, and now we go to a heavy black over the top of it, we're going to be able to simply follow what we've created and make a muscular arm, for instance, here, in which you'll put your shading or the yeah, you'll do it as the penciler. You would put the shading on. Here's the muscular arm over the other side as well, and you would start to put the shading in over there. Similarly, you do the same on the legs and so forth. It's absolutely imperative to remember that these techniques are not there to produce the finished drawing. They're there to provide the skeleton, if you like, upon which you hang everything else. So we've got our muscular arms here as a good example of how you would use the tubes. Then you would go a little further with your spheres to put some muscles on them, and then it would finally be handed over to the inker. I think these days most of us tend to do it by ourselves anyway, but would be handed over to the inker to finish off. So that's the three shapes that Marvel Style was built on. Once again, just tap the like button, hit the subscribe button. You'll continue to get notifications when I've got new films out. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you can put it to good use. That's the important thing. Put it to use and make sure that your pictures now become Marvel Style when you want them to be Marvel Style. Thanks for watching. See you next time.